The sun had just risen above the horizon, the morning light shining through the canopy of the old forest. The first rays of sunlight penetrated the thick fog, creating a magical scene. In that deep forest, the chirping of birds echoed, blending with the cries of wild animals, creating a wonderful natural symphony. In a clearing in the middle of the forest, a group of men were preparing for a hard day's work. They were experienced foresters, accustomed to cutting trees, sawing and transporting wood back to the village. In the morning light, their sunburned faces were clearly visible, every wrinkle, every drop of sweat told of months of tireless labor. In a clearing in the middle of the forest, a group of men were preparing for a hard day's work. They were experienced foresters, accustomed to cutting trees, sawing and transporting wood back to the village. In the morning light, their sunburned faces were clearly visible, every wrinkle, every drop of sweat told of months of tireless labor. The ancient tree they chose today was a huge black star tree, which had lived for hundreds of years in the middle of the forest. The chirping of birds rang out from the high branches, as if to say goodbye to the ancient tree that was about to be cut down. Mr. Ba picked up a large chainsaw, started the engine and started working. The sound of the chainsaw was deafening, drowning out the sounds of birds and wild animals. Wood chips flew everywhere. Sunlight passed through, creating shimmering streaks of light in the air. After a long while, the ancient tree began to shake. Mr. Ba signaled everyone to step back, then continued sawing carefully. Finally, the tree fell down with a loud bang. The whole forest seemed to shake with the rhythm of the tree falling. The forest workers quickly moved forward, began to segment and prepare to transport the wood. While one group of people used saws to cut the trees into small pieces, another group began to bundle the logs and prepare the means of transport. The buffaloes pulled the carts, the small trucks were ready and waiting for orders. Mr. Ba still stood watching, his eyes cold but full of emotion as he watched the old tree being cut down. He understood that each tree cut down meant a part of the forest was lost, but that was their job and their life.
When the sun rose high, the work was gradually completed. The large logs were loaded onto the trucks, preparing to leave the forest. The birds were still chirping, although softer, as if mourning the old tree that had passed away. The wild animals had also returned to their daily rhythm, only the forest was a little quieter, as if saying goodbye to an old friend.
Mr. Ba and his brothers packed up their belongings, preparing to leave the forest. They knew that tomorrow would be a new working day, with other old trees that needed to be cut down and transported. But in each person's heart, there is still love and respect for the forest that has nourished them for generations. As the car left the forest, Mr. Ba turned back for the last time, his eyes filled with thought. The birdsong, the cries of wild animals and the morning light were still there, but he knew that with each passing day, the forest lost a part of itself. And for forest workers like him, it was a burden they always carried in their hearts.